Hello guys and welcome to a whole new Couchisode. Today we're going to be bringing 2 extra players to the couch.
You're going to save the world from an evil empire.
And we will be attempting the next Valentino Rossi title. So stay tuned and gentlemen, start your engines. Alright guys, welcome back to another Couchisode. We hope that you had a very good week and we're here today again with you to bring you some of that sweet nostalgia games and what we played when we were kids and see, well, what you have to say about it.
Yeah.
So today we're going to have a very, very special Couchisode. We have 2 extra players, as we mentioned, coming to the couch. So we're going to have some really nice stuff coming in today. Finally, people are stopping, are not getting shy anymore, and they are starting to send some of their contributions to our channel, which we appreciate. So without any further ado, we're going to kick right on to the first game that we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about the Cycles from 1989 for PC, and this was developed by Distinctive Software and published by Accolade. So this is another one of those games that brings back the sweet nostalgia of the early 90s, as well as my beloved 386 that I had back in the time. Now, this is one of those games that, again, I got it from the school library computers, and one that could not be played there because of the PC speaker music that we were not able to turn off. So, or at least I wasn't aware on how to, and I played this game recently, and I'm still not aware on how to turn off the music on that game.
You can actually turn it off. You just have to open the computer up and remove the speaker.
Yes, that was not possible on a computer from the school library. I would be kicked out of the school, or at least suspended, which I eventually did for another reason, but we'll talk about later. We'll talk about that later in another, opportunity, let's say. So obviously this struck to me as an immense curiosity on the game, and my gut feeling was right. This was an amazing experience that really stood out from the very popular bike racing games from the arcades. So we transcended into the world of simulation rather than just, riding through checkpoints and avoid running out of time, which was very common on, games like Super Hang-On and so on of that particular time period. So the game takes us immediately into the main menu where we can select 3 modes of playing, which are practice, single race, or championship circuit. We can compete in 3 classes, 125, 250, and 500 cc's, and play along 15 tracks from several countries in the world like West Germany and Czechoslovakia, all of them being part of the 1989 Grand Prix motorcycle season known as MotoGP nowadays. So you can see, Blade, you can see the game is really old when you can actually play in countries that no longer exist, like, West Germany and Czechoslovakia.
But when you mentioned this game, it wasn't ringing any bells, but now looking at the gameplay, I played this. I know I played this.
You might have. I mean, it was. It wasn't definitely the first biking game that we would see, but I think it was, at least to my knowledge, it was the first one that we had that was a simulation. Kind of like when we talked about F1 GP or Formula 1 Grand Prix a couple of Couchisodes ago. So we mentioned that it's the transition to the simulation, and I think that really showed what the PC and the home computing was capable of into trying to turn the market into more of the simulation rather than just the arcade game. This was 1989. We're starting the 90s, and we saw a little bit of improvement on the realism of games as also computers became more and more powerful. So the game would attempt to simulate as much as possible a race weekend. When selecting the championship circuit, you would enter the normal racing season. You will have to attempt a qualifying race, and based on that, define which position on the grid you would start later on. So obviously, the objective of the game is to get through the finish line without crashing, which if you do crash, you would immediately leave the race and wouldn't score any points. So again, in terms of complexity, the game is not that, let's say, complex. It has a qualifying stage. You would then get the position out of the grid, and then you would start racing against other other competitors, and this would be computer-based or AI-controlled opponents. But again, really, really fun. I remember quite fondly the fact that the animations on turning the bike, when you would start the race, you could do kind of a wheelie with the bike. You would see the front of the bike coming up. So
yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, I mean, it was really fun. The game was really, really fun, and despite it's not such a complex game, it really brought the simulation into it. The fact that you would lose the race if you just crash, which is brings some realism to it. I mean, definitely worth trying. I don't believe that it's available in any digital platforms, but again, really worth trying for you guys, and I hope you can give it a go because it's really good.
That was a real trip down memory lane. I really, honestly didn't remember this one. Wow.
Yeah, so just give it a go. It's available on online web pages where you can just run the game from there. So it's quite simple to get the hands on it. It's everywhere around the internet. So it's not going to be difficult for you guys to find it. And let's start or let's wrap up this game and giving the segue, or going through the segue, to our first contribution of the day from a very dear friend of ours. He already had sent some videos before. He had been quiet for the last let's say few days or a few weeks or months, and recently, or just today, he sent us a contribution of a very, very good game that we're going to go right on to it. Yeah, it's an excellent game, guys, so stick around and let's see what this amazing friend and as is going to bring to us.
Yeah, see you guys in a bit.
See you.
Raptor Call of the Shadows was originally developed for MS-DOS by Cygnus Studios and published by the mighty Apogee Software back in April of 1994. It was in fact placed in store shelves on April 1st of 1994. When Apogee announced to the public that Raptor would be available on that day, everyone thought that it was an April Fool's joke, but it wasn't. And the game was supposed to be called Mercenary 2029 and not Raptor Call of the Shadows. My first experience with it was provided by a shareware version available for DOS, which included the first episode, Bravo Sector, and its music, composed by Matt Murphy, still pounds in my mind since then. Raptor Call of the Shadows is divided into 3 sectors: Bravo Sector, Tango Sector and Our Regions, each one composed of a total of 9 levels. As for its plot, is as basic as being sent on interplanetary missions to destroy everything that crosses our path, in this case, the Megacorp's thugs. Being a shoot-'em-up, everything that appears on screen must be destroyed, from other flying objects to ground targets like turrets, buildings and vehicles. Obviously that a shoot-'em-up without end-level bosses wouldn't be a shoot-'em-up, so there's plenty of those, even halfway through a certain number of later levels. Credits and bonuses are earned by destroying stuff, and the more difficult the enemies are, the more credits and bonuses we'll get. The player has only 1 life, but there's an energy meter that makes Raptor stand out from most shoot-'em-ups available until then. Also, a save option is available between levels that is really welcomed in this type of games. Our ship can withstand quite a huge amount of damage, always having the chance to upgrade it with shields and more powerful weapons that can be bought or collected using the credit and purchase system implemented. When facing the various types of enemies, we can dynamically switch between the weapons installed to face with the situation in hand, cause some weapons can only hit airborne targets and other only ground targets. Even so, there's a few that can hit both, so these last ones are pretty practical. The more original weapons present must be the auto-tracking turrets, and besides the Mega Bomb that will destroy everything on screen, including enemy bullets and projectiles, there's this weapon that fires continuous instant beams capable of penetrating and destroying multiple targets in one shot. Also, we can purchase a certain item called the Ion Scanner that, when confronting a level boss, can measure its own energy and damage meter.
Wow. First of all, thank you so much, Pixel, for being a part of the couch once again. You're welcome every time, you know that. And what an awesome game. I played this to exhaustion back then. This was so cool. Really.
I did not play it initially. I mean, not play it initially. The story about this game with me is quite different. I did get my hands initially on the Bravo Sector shareware episode because this was available back then, and I had a friend that had it. But later on, when piracy wasn't really a crime, I just went to one of those houses that used to do software copies, and I actually ended up getting the full version of the game this way. So it was really a different time. This game, though, I later on took some time to look into it and find some. I like to find some curiosities around the game and so on. And this game was classified as a graphical wonder for the time. It was even said that this was and it was from a magazine called Computer Gaming World. I remember seeing this quote quite fresh or recently seeing it, that it says that it was Apogee's most professional and competent release since Wolfenstein 3D. So again, this game sold like, I don't know, 80 or 90,000 copies, which was a huge number for the time, and definitely excellent game. Thank you, Pixel, for bringing this up to us. Thank you once again for being in our channel. You know that you are a great inspiration to all of us, and the content that you make is super high quality, and it's one of a kind. Guys, just drop by. It's a Pixel Things channel. He does some amazing work. We already mentioned that here before. We're not going to go through it again. Excellent documentaries about some of the most the most famous and the most or the best, let's say, game developers and publishers that were around for during the early days of the gaming. So just drop by and take a look at it.
Yeah, and just don't miss one of his most recent documentaries about the Bitmap brothers. It's so cool, and it reminds us of such an awesome company that had such great games. And if you miss them, you will learn about a lot of them.
I did love about his recent release of the, I believe it was the 30 Amiga games that he just compiled. It was quite a long video, but I loved every single minute of those 40-something or 30-something minutes that the video was, and it was absolute bliss and perfect. So check it out, guys. You're gonna like it.
Perfect video to give me ideas to games to play on the Amiga I recently got.
I do have to say that I take a lot of ideas, at least of games, because Pixel has this thing of remembering as much of old and moldy stuff that we do remember also here in this channel. So I mean, it's absolutely amazing. He's a great inspiration. He knows that. He's a great friend of the channel, and I hope that we can have him here many more times with his absolute crisp quality content and whatnot. So but let's get back to our regular schedule. And Blade, I think you have a game for us today.
And let's just leave this in the air, and maybe we'll try to drag you along with us in a couch someday.
Yes.
We'll see.
We're watching you.
So, games. Let's bring another game to the couch today, and I'm going to talk about the NES, and the game I actually played from one of those cartridges that came with multiple games, and I had serious trouble finding the real name of this game because it didn't come in this cartridge. And I have to send out a huge thank you to Mr. NES, because he actually helped me find this game and the real name of this game. It's called The Raid on Bungeling Bay from 1985 on the NES. It never came out officially in Europe, and the game originally came out in '84 for the Commodore 64, if I'm not mistaken. And if you look at this game and you haven't played it, it will remind you immediately of Desert Strike or games like this, because the base of the game was you started on an aircraft carrier with a helicopter, and you had a mission. You had to attack an island where you had 6 factories from the Bungeling Empire that were trying to develop a big machine to conquer the world, and you had to destroy these 6 factories before the time ran out. what you could do, you could actually get your weapons reloaded on the carrier or a secret island. You would eventually find a smaller island. And you had to do this quick because the more time you took, more enemies would start to appear, and those factories would start to evolve further and create harder enemies for you to fight against. And at some point it would be practically impossible for you to win the game. But the game was quite cool because you had a very simple soundtrack in the end, like ta 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 ta. You just heard this the whole game, and it was just shooting and enemies flying around till you destroyed the factories. And it was quite a simple game back then in concept, but it was a lot of fun, and it was quite nice for me to, a few years later, get my hands on games like Desert Strike and remember this one, because I spent countless hours on this one, and it was really hard for me not to know the name of this game, because it just came in a multi-game cartridge called Ellie. The game was called Ellie.
Yeah, those cartridges that they had 300 games and 299 of those were variants of one game.
These cartridges were the only way that we could get our hands on some of the games that never came out in Europe. And
no, indeed,
this was a real gem of a game, and you should really try to find this one and play this today, because it's still very pleasant to play. I played this one like 3-4 weeks ago, about a month, and it was still enjoyable, and really quite enjoyable. Just try to find this one. Play this one. You will not regret it.
I did not know this game. I mean, obviously, I know Desert Strike, Jungle Strike, all of that. So obviously, I played those games first in the PC, and then actually first on the Amiga, and then in the PC on the PC. But I guess that's the interesting turnaround here is the fact that these games, the added difficulty that you just mentioned about the factories and so on. I guess that's an excellent way of grabbing a game. Where resources are very limited. I mean, we're talking about the NES. It's a very limited, graphically, it's a very limited device, or at least it's a very limited device as per what we know today. Back then, it was probably a wonder. But these little details of increasing the difficulty as the game progresses with bringing up harder enemies and so on, it just gives it a different twist that we would see, for example, in Desert Strike, for example. That wouldn't happen. You had the objectives, you had to pick up hostages, get fuel, and so on, and make sure you didn't get blown up. So that was it. I guess that's a really interesting one. But Blade, I think you have someone else to. I think we have to look into another contribution from some of our couchies, right?
Oh yes, we do, and we'll dive right into it, and we'll talk about it right after, because it's a very nice game. So let's bring it on.
Game on.
Hello once again, Couch Buddies. I suspect that the viewers are still feeling shy, so I hope that this will encourage them to share some memories in the upcoming future. In this episode, I am going to show some love towards the Nintendo Entertainment System. The year is 1993, and Capcom released a spin-off of their arcade classic named Final Fight. Due to hardware constraints, the NES version used chibi art style and only provided a single-player experience. However, it did include an experience point system allowing players to learn new fighting maneuvers, which was awesome back then. The plot is really simple. Rescue Jessica, Mayor Haggard's daughter, from the evil grasp of the Mad Gear Gang. We have 3 players to choose from: Mayor Haggard, obviously, Cody, Jessica's boyfriend, and Guy, Cody's training partner. This is basically a button masher with power-ups that range from vitality restoring food items to extra lives and even additional chances to continue after a game over. Weapons are also available, but unlike the arcade version, the weapon the player can obtain are dependent on the character. For instance, Cody will get a knife, Guy can use a set of shurikens, and Hagar will obtain an oversized mallet. The game consists of 5 stages as well as 2 bonus rounds, where the player will encounter childlike counterparts of the Mad Gear members from the original Final Fight, including bosses such as Thrasher, which we are seeing in this gameplay, Katana, and Abigail. The final boss is a cyborg version of Belgier, and that it is extremely difficult, my friends. This is still a really fun game that I play even today. I would like to thank you for having me, and game on, my friends.
Thank you very much, Hugo, for this contribution to our channel. Excellent game. I mean, it's obviously, I knew Final Fight, and I've played Final Fight many, many times. But I have to confess that I did not know, or I haven't played this version of the NES. And I found that it added some extra, funny effect. The fact that the head of the characters are so big, especially when we consider Hagar as being that massive hunk of muscles with such a big head. So like one of those bobbing heads that you have on the car, those dogs that do like this all the time. I mean, I immediately ran it as funny for me. So it was amazing. Thank you very much, Hugo. Guys, Hugo has a very nice webpage. It's kind of like a blog where he does some gaming reviews, where he talks about his whole experience, within the gaming world, and he has some great content there, also talking about retro games. So, guys, don't forget to just drop by Hugo's page and check it out. And again, as we said before, also it's a Pixel Things page, YouTube channel, where he has amazing content. And guys, I guess that this is it for today. We reached the end of the road, or like the Doors would say, this is the end.
My only friend, the end.
Exactly. What a nice song.
Oh, yeah.
So you guys know what to do. Leave a like if you like. Leave a dislike if you didn't like. Consider subscribing to the channel. And I hope to see you all there next week for another great Couchisode. So guys, thank you very much, and game on.
Game on, everyone. Stay safe. See you next week.